Ask Reddit, employees of maternity wards, OB-GYNs, midwives, nurses, etc. What is the worst case of, you shouldn't be a parent you have seen? I know a couple who were foster carers. Roughly every year they'd get a newborn from a couple who were both on the as offenders register. They kept getting pregnant despite knowing that the baby would be removed by social services almost immediately. My wife and I did foster care. We took in a 4-month-old girl and had her for over a year, and then were offered the opportunity to adopt after parental rights were terminated. You don't bond with a baby and then break that bond, so we started the adoption process. Close to completion, bioegg donor and biosperm donor had another, who was immediately taken by CPS. The little guy spent his first 2 months in NICU, with a brain bleed and drug detox. And we now had a choice: adopt them both, or back out. They were to be a matched set. There may be more, but they would be after our case was closed and sealed. They were bad enough that any further children born to them would be immediately taken by CPS. I'm now the proud dad of thriving 10 and 12-year-olds. Not an employee of a maternity ward, but I have a cousin who is a meth addict. She's just had her 5th child. Every time she has a baby, it gets taken away from her, and she literally has another one on purpose, hoping she can keep that one. She's incredibly lucky that her parents, my uncle and aunt, have taken in all of her children so they can be together, but they are about 70 years old and have already raised 5 kids of their own. I actually hate my cousin for doing this to them. My work took me to a perinatal mental health unit. There was a new mom who was an inpatient there, had the baby a week or 2 back. She had postpartum psychosis and was currently catatonic. Her husband had asked a member of staff when they could start trying for their second baby. WTF is wrong with his priorities? He shouldn't be a parent. Or a husband. I mean, it's not uncommon for a woman who doesn't have custody of her other 3+ kids due to drugs to get pregnant while still doing those same drugs and once again not get custody of the new baby. But also refuse to go on any long-term form of birth control like an IUD that would let them do drugs in peace without making more babies. Infinitely baffling to me. If you'd prefer to do meth over everything else and pregnancy is unwanted, why not take steps to not get pregnant? Was a student nurse shadowing a community health visitor. Visited a pregnant woman who hadn't found out the gender of the baby yet. She, for some reason, told us that her boyfriend, father of the baby, had been previously convicted of SA against a child under 13. The mother said it so casually and was angry that people kept judging him for a mistake he made. The health visitor was horrified and asked if she wasn't worried he would hurt her sons, 2 boys under 10 from a previous relationship. She just said, "Of course not, they're boys," basically admitting this man did something to a young girl. So health visitor asked, "What if the baby you're having now is a girl?" This woman literally shrugged and said, "Then I'll abort it, and we'll try again until we get a boy." She said it so casually, like she was talking about the weather. I've never been more disgusting with a human, and I hope that the children are safe. The number of women who shack up with their kids and get pregnant by child rapists is horrifying. It's terrifying how low the self-esteem is for these women, that they're just willing to accept anything rather than be alone. I worked in mother-baby for over 10 years. I saw many questionable parents. Drug users that were high, no prenatal care. Parents that would curse at their newborn and tell the baby to shut up. Women with mental health disorders that were at the time dangerous to their child. A mother fighting with her baby daddy that was throwing things, food tray and such, across the room at him. With the baby in the midst. Another thing I hated to see were parents telling people not to hold their newborn BC, it would spoil the baby. Once had parents leave a newborn alone in the room to go outside and smoke/do drugs. Had parents threaten to sue us BC we made their baby a birth certificate. Had a young mom with 4 kids 3 and under. When it was time to go home, she stuck all the children in a car backseat. Only the newborn had a car seat. Sometimes the police would be waiting outside at discharge if one of the parents had a warrant out for arrest. Lots of sad situations. Paramedic here. I used to occasionally do interfacility transports with the NICU team, nurse practitioner, RN, and myself in the back, though they do most than heavy lifting, and so many opioid-addicted newborns. I remember the first time I had to calculate a fentanyl drip for a 6-pound baby so he didn't go into withdrawals. Can't get clean for the pregnancy, but also refuse to do anything to prevent pregnancy. It's heartbreaking. I grew up in a daycare run by my dad, and there was once a baby brought to him at only a few months old that was coming off of a few different substances due to his birth mother's addiction. He was adopted by a family prior to his birth, who then brought him to our daycare. I remember seeing him shaking and screaming constantly for the first month he was there. The way he cried was different than other newborns. He was in pain. He was still adjusting to coming off the withdrawals, I guess. His birth mother got pregnant again, like 4 years later, and had his little brother. The same family adopted him. Not an employee but a good friend of mine has adopted 2 babies from the foster system who are half-siblings. No idea who the dads are, but they have the same mom. The mom is in her 30s and has had 9 babies now. She's a worker and drug addict, but whenever she finds out she's pregnant, she does something to go to jail where she gets clean and gives birth. Last baby, she had him alone in her cell and just left him on the floor while she went back to bed. Thankfully, guards found him before he froze to death. He's the most gorgeous 3-year-old now. They know where 5 of the 9 siblings, while adopted, are, and keep them in touch with one another. You know what? That's probably the best solution to her problem. Knows she can't get clean on her own, so gets herself sent to jail to force herself to be clean, so the babies aren't born addicted. Definitely in the shouldn't be a parent ever category, but given how many born addicted babies are in this thread, definitely could be worse. Not really the gist of the question, but at a house party a gal who was so drunk she couldn't stand up and nearly burnt holes in the furniture with her smokes and bong announced, in a comically loud stage whisper, that she was a few months pregnant but not to worry because she'd already scheduled an abortion. The entire room heaved a sigh of relief, given she'd already had 4 other children seized by the state. Then someone asked why she didn't just use birth control. Her answer? You can't prove that stuff works, and also I'm not going to pollute my body with hormones. Wow. I feel sorry for her remaining eggs. Not a medical professional, but my baby was born premature and spent a little over a month in the NICU. It was the hardest thing I've ever experienced. My wife and I were fortunate enough to be able to do shifts and care for our little guy almost around the clock. The baby next to us was born the same day as our son and looked to have a similar experience with needing a ventilator and oxygen. To my knowledge, not once in those 34 days did he have a visitor or anyone to hold him and comfort him besides the excellent nurses there. I think about that baby a lot, and I really hope he graduated and found a home with people who will love him a great deal. Not a medical professional, but my folks own a group home that specializes in caring for medically complex young children who require 24-hour nurse care. Most of their kids have been wards of the state. Aside from the terribly sad drug situations others have posted about, they commonly get kids who have issues due to drugs during pregnancy. One case that stands out to me is a woman who apparently drank bleach regularly throughout her pregnancy, hoping her kid would turn out blonde. Ruined the baby's brain and caused a lot of other serious medical issues. Family medicine clinic here, we had a woman from out of town bring her 5-year-old in. Kid's healthy enough, but the both stink to high heaven. Like the smell lingered in the exam room after they left, for hours. Mom's feet and clothes are filthy. Turns out Mom also needed medical care because she was pregnant and had been having some vaginal bleeding. Mom has had 2 miscarriages in the last year, has had no prenatal care, already has 5 kids, only 1 or 2 with her, and is living in an old camping trailer with boyfriend and kids. Boyfriend made her come to the doctor because of the bleeding. She didn't think it was a big deal. She was supposed to come in for a follow-up, but they left town the next week. They were traveling in the trailer and wanted to let the kids decide where they stayed. I hope she's okay, but I'm doubtful. Have you seen anyone who shouldn't be a parent? Feel free to share in the comments below. Please consider subscribing and liking for more daily videos.